Hey, YouTube. How are you? You can't answer me, right? Okay, so I want to ask you a question. Where were you 9/11? 9/11 it's 2002, right? I know if I get anything wrong, I'm going to get the shit read out of me. I believe it was 2002. I know exactly where I was. I was in a drug program called Walden House in San Francisco. As it turns out, I remember coming down the back steps and seeing everyone was crowded around television. It was a big house, Walden House. And maybe a couple hundred people there. I don't remember the exact number, but I think a couple hundred people were there. Let's just say 150 people were there. Anyway, they were all crowded around the TVs in this main room there. And after the first tower fell, and then I was actually there to see the second plane hit the second tower. So it was a traumatic time. I'll never forget that date. I'll never forget that day or what I was doing. As it turns out, that wasn't my last time in program. That was my last relapse from there. I'm not going to pretend that I knew a lot about what happened on the ground in 9/11. I'm just going to talk about kind of where I was at that time, what was going on. At that time, I was in this big house, Walden House. Soon after that happened, remember they had counselors there that called everybody in off their day off and so forth. So they had all these counselors there. They closed the house down to see that everybody was all right. People weren't triggered by this. That make sure they were safe. They felt safe and so forth. As for me, it turned out to be not my last time in program. That program was set up where you're locked down at first. Y'all, oh, I forgot to say, I moved the chair slightly, so I've been shopping again. You see that? Look at my new house. I've been decorating again. That's Leonardo da Vinci. You see him? I can't help myself. I've been doing it, and this guy here is new. Oh, he's sort of new. I got a new base for him. Anyway, I've been doing this since I was a child. My apartment has been decorated since probably a couple of weeks after I got here, but it never ends for me. I always changing things, Any kind of upgrade, I go for it as my guilty pleasure. Is what I like to do. Anyway, so the program was set up. You come there and you stay for, I think it was 30 days inside the house. You couldn't leave. After 30 days, then you can leave the house. So I believe I was still in my 30-day period there when 9/11 happened. Eventually, you'll get to where you can leave the house yourself, go out on the weekend, right? I guess it's kind of testing you slowly. But they let you go out by yourself. I think that was the 60-day mark. Anyway, I left that house that day, and I had no intention on using. Drug addiction is, that obsession is very strange. It can hit you very quickly. So I left the house, on my way to the Castro, which is a couple blocks from where I live now, to the place where I volunteer now. And on the way there, by myself, I saw this guy who was dressed in this leather outfit, very scantily dressed, many parts were showing, kind of thing. And he told me, I asked him where he was. He asked me for directions to Folsom Street Fair, right? This is like story time. The dude asked me for his directions to the Folsom Street Fair, right? I didn't realize that it was the Folsom Street Fair. I don't remember actually planning on being out on at the same time as the Folsom Street Fair. It's like Pride is number one, where you have hundreds of thousands of people here, and Folsom Street Fair is number two. It's like a leather fair, but it's kind of commercial type thing where all kind of people, straight people, all kind of people dressed up in leather, and they had this fair. Anyway, so just like that, as soon as the guy said hello to me, it was nice. As for directions, I made the decision. My mind had already connected with getting loaded. So I made it to the little coffee shop where I now presently work. I went into the bathroom. I remember when I came out of the bathroom, it was like I was on a mission. I went to a little fair. They only let you leave the house with $10, right? They don't have you have enough money to be tempted by that. Went to that fair. There was nobody that I knew at the fair that I could see. There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people. And my mind was, it felt like I wanted to go to the fair, but really I wanted to get high. So I got there and stayed there for about 15 minutes. And I made my way back to the Tenderloin and back to my crowd. It was weird. That was my last relapse. So I've been clean for 17 and a half years. So it was 9/11, 18 years ago. Yeah. So my sobriety date will be a little less than that since I relapsed. And then one more time. So in a couple of months, I was arrested again. I figured this parole lady would let me go since I've been trying to do the program and all this kind of stuff. But no, she maxed me out. The maximum was another year in prison. A year with halftime, right? But that turned out to be the very last time. So people say that recovery is relapse is part of your recovery. I think to a certain degree I agree with that. You know, I had to see that it wasn't working for me. It wasn't worth it. But it's just like sticking your hand into a wall socket. You got to learn it. It's a lesson you got to learn. And apparently I learned my lesson on that time. But anyway, that's what I was doing in that time of 9/11. Where were you guys at? Do you remember what you were doing? I remember what I was doing the day Martin Luther King died, right? And that was 1968. So I was born in 1958. So I can remember how old I was. I remember being in the front yard of my mother's house and her coming out into the yard and telling everybody that Martin Luther King had just been assassinated. See? And that day just stuck in my mind. I'll never forget that. Many people will say that they remember the day that Kennedy was assassinated. Big things like that. Terrible things. They leave a mark on you. You know. Anyway, so remember that date, and I remember the day that 9/11. I don't know if I remember any other big dates, really. Of course, I was high most of the time, so I wouldn't remember too much. So think about it, people. Do you remember what you were doing on 9/11? Do you remember when you heard it? What was going on? What happened? Let's put it in the comments. And put it in the comments. I'd be curious to know. All right, people. Later. Don't you forget Greenleaf tonight. It is the finale.